So you're searching for a childcare or preschool program. Should you enroll your baby or toddler or preschooler full-time or part-time? I'm going to be discussing this today from a childcare provider's perspective. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly. I'm the Daycare Guide. I've worked in early childhood for over 20 years in director, teacher, and consultant roles. So a lot of parents ask this question to us on tours. The most common logical thought that comes to mind is enrolling a young infant or a young toddler in a program 5 days a week full time for 40 or 50 hours a week is just way too long, way too much for them, and they're just too little for it. But from a childcare provider's perspective, even though it's counterintuitive, and they are so young, the younger that babies enroll and more consistent days, meaning full time 5 days a week, the better they actually do in transitioning and adjusting to the program. This is of course assuming it's a good quality childcare program. Overall, generally speaking, we see that when babies enroll younger and full-time 5 days a week, they're overall more adjusted at childcare. Drop-off time becomes easier, transitions throughout the day in different areas or when different caregivers are coming in the room becomes easier, transitioning to different areas of the building like going outside or going for a walk or going to a playroom. The children that are enrolled full-time younger typically have an easier time with these transitions, while the children who are enrolled part-time tend to have a harder time with those transitions, and they're just overall more flexible, more socialized, more used to their routine and being around other children. They get really comfortable because it's simply all that they know and remember. So even when they transition to the toddler classroom and the preschool classroom, those children tend to be really flexible and just well-adjusted and going with the flow. All they can remember is childcare. There's a pretty clear distinction between those children and children that enroll part-time or enroll older as toddlers or preschoolers. Not at all saying that they're smarter or more advanced or anything like that. I'm more so referring to temperament and adjustment, crying on and off throughout the day, and being comfortable and used to the childcare environment. A lot of teachers that I've worked with prefer when children are enrolled full-time. Now, some teachers like the part-timers because then there's less children a day that they have to take care of, but teachers that were solely thinking about the children's well-being and how they're doing and how the classroom is flowing really tend to prefer children to be enrolled full-time. Children that are enrolled 1 to 2 days a week typically have a really hard time transitioning, and it's dragged out for like 2 or 3 months because they're not consistently coming. So every time it kind of feels like a new and big transition. When babies are enrolled full-time, I would say on average it takes about 1 to 2 weeks for them to get used to the childcare routine. But when they enroll part-time, 2 or 3 days a week, for example, we see that the transition time is typically longer, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, or even 2 to 3 months until they really get comfortable at drop-off and throughout the day. It tends to take a longer time for them to get used to the childcare environment at drop-off, during transitions, seeing different faces. And it's even harder when there's more days in between their days. For example, a center I used to work at offered just even 1 day a week care or 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the teachers would beg me to take away the 1 day and 2 day options because from Thursday to Tuesday of the following week, there's so many days in between that the Tuesday drop-off and their day on Tuesday was always miserable. Thursday was a little better because it was only 1 day in between. It's those gaps in between the week that are really hard for them. And sometimes even children enrolled full-time have a hard time on Monday mornings because of that weekend gap and the transition back to school, but typically Tuesday through Friday, the rest of the week, they're fine at drop-off and throughout the day. They've only been at home and haven't really been around other children or adults. Those first couple weeks when they do enroll first time are going to be difficult. But when you maintain that consistency, typically more quickly they adjust than children enrolled part-time. Sometimes parents will enroll their children and say, oh, I want to start them out part-time and see how they do, and then if they like it and they do well, then I'll enroll them to full-time. But sometimes it completely backfires because they just enroll, say, 2 half days a week. It's not long enough for them to adjust, and then the parents think, oh, they don't like it, I'm going to pull them out completely. Huge no-no. From our perspective, we would advise them to move forward with 5 days a week so that they can get adjusted. Again, counterintuitive, right? It can seem illogical to parents, I get it. If they're not doing well a couple days, why would I want to bring them more often? Wouldn't they be more miserable? But when they're in the childcare environment more often and more consistently, they tend to adjust quicker. So consistency really is key. Children really thrive on routines and consistency. I do want to note, of course, there are exceptions. There may be children that are enrolled full-time that have a really hard time adjusting, or there may be children that are enrolled part-time that do just fine at drop-off and throughout the day. Every child is different. I'm just summarizing from what I've seen over the years with working with hundreds, if not thousands, of different young children. Of course, you have to choose what works best for your family based on a variety of factors. Your work schedules are variable, finances are a variable, availability of a spot in the program is a variable, and so on and so forth. But specifically, if your concern is that it's going to be too much for them because they're too little being in childcare for so long, just know that most of the time, it's actually the opposite. We typically see children do really well when they enroll younger and full-time in a program rather than part-time. I know it may seem like it's a lot for them because they're so little, but if it's a good program with excellent teachers and they feel comfortable and happy and safe there, it's not a problem. They're super happy and they're learning and thriving and growing. I hope this video was helpful to answer any questions or reservations that you might have. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. Wishing you the best of luck on your childcare journey. Be sure to like and subscribe for more childcare and preschool tips and tricks for parents, and I'll see you next time. Bye.